All right, we're back. You will notice Mike is not here yet. Mike is running a bit behind today, a little bit more so than usual. So
He's
he will
huffing
be.
his own farts. That's what he's doing.
You what?
Mike is huffing his own farts. That's what I always tell
Well, I
people.
mean, this is what he's always doing. It's
Yes.
his post-workout regime. I mean, come on. Now, apparently he had some family stuff going on that he had to take care of and things like that. So he's going to be running just a little bit behind today. We have kind of an interesting combo topic for you guys tonight that we think is going to be fun. I know being a retro crowd, VR isn't always in the forefront, even though it's kind of been a part of gaming since, well, the Master System. And
Well, that's why we're talking about the R zone tonight. When you say VR, I think you're talking about.
Oh, well, okay. I mean, yeah, I guess you could go R zone if you're poor. And have no taste. It has to be a combination of both.
I got them both.
And then for those of you that are masochists that like to have your eyeballs fall out of their sockets, there's always the Virtual Boy as well.
Yes. I got a hat trick tonight. Woo!
Yahtzee! So, heads up to everybody in the chat. I'm hoping the stream will go like normal. I am on call this week, and there is a bad storm in the area. So, if the lights have already kind of blinked a few times before the show, so I'm hoping it stays calm enough that everything can kind of continue like normal. But if I disappear, that's why. Things happened outside of my control.
Here's a question. Let's say, hypothetically, when Mike gets on here, and let's say your power were to go out, but we're still here. Would you want us to continue the show?
I mean, if you want to, I can't see why not. I mean,
and then we just wouldn't know how to end it.
I don't know how you guys would end the broadcast. It'd be our longest podcast ever.
The marathon. We're still going.
We have had a few people pop in and out. Looks like there's a lot of people lurking tonight. Scepter popped in earlier. I don't know if he's still here in the chat. Dreadpool popped in. Zombie popped in to say hello. Vinny's been around as well. We got about 9 people kind of hanging out. I figure we'll go ahead and do our normal thing, and we can kind of start the conversation a little bit.
I'm ready.
Kind of catch Mike up to speed as he pops in, because I don't want to delay everything for everybody too long. So what all have you been into, man? It's been a little bit since we talked. I imagine you've just been busy.
Yeah, busy, working on my episode that's taking literally since 2017 to finish.
Yeah, this is the Maniac Manor one, right?
Yeah, Maniac Manor. I've if you follow me on Twitter or Instagram, especially Instagram, I understand if some people don't like Twitter. Instagram, you can follow me there. And I always post behind the scenes making of content of this episode. And on Twitter, I had asked a few months back, hey, I'm adding more content to Maniac Manor. What horror games would you like me to add to this big episode? Splatterhouse was one.
I was about to say, if you haven't gotten Splatterhouse, then that's just a shame, because that's
it's in there. So it's
I would say Zombies Ate My Neighbors will be another really good one too.
Well, now, damn it, you've just added another month of work to my
Sorry. Sorry.
But as far as
I'll keep other ideas to myself.
Yeah, please. Thank you. As far as non-work is concerned, I've been playing 2 games, well, 3. The 2 games I've been going right back to. I always say I'm going to play new games, but I always fall back to a number of them. Mass Effect would be one of them, but right now I'm playing the SteamWorld Dig games 1 and 2. I love those games to death.
I never got into those games. Now, I did go through the first Mass Effect again not that long ago, and at some point I got to carve out time to go through 2 and then eventually 3.
Mm-hmm.
Lately, myself, I've been doing a lot more retro gaming lately, along with a little bit of modern gaming.
Mm-hmm.
I had Diablo 4 installed. That was a big fixation for a while, and I kind of tapering off on that. So I got the idea to play through Metroid because I needed some footage for a video. And so I got stuck.
Which Metroid?
The original Metroid.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I've already got to do a rewrite because something doesn't work the way I thought it worked. Because I was I'm doing a game mechanics on physics, right? And so I was going to go into how gravity affects characters because that's part of the physics of the game, right?
Yep.
And Metroid seemed like a good example because it's a good example of breaking those physics gradually through the game as you progress. However, I had forgotten it's later in the series when you get the space jump that the screw attack, well, it already breaks the game in any game it's in, just because of how it works. But it really breaks the game when you no longer have to be on the ground ever again.
Yeah, yes, you can keep going. Yeah, yeah.
I thought that happened in the first one, and when I went through, which I partially, and I'm gonna, because bless me, Megadan, for I have sinned. I used a map to find some of these things initially because I needed footage, and I was beating my head against it. And so I used a footage for part of it. So now I'm just trying to do the rest of it more by memory and kind of make a mental map just by playing it over and over again because I kind of got sucked back into playing that game again.
Right.
Looks like Oak City Gamers and Mr. Matthews have popped in. Welcome, guys. Good to see you. So I also started getting into Adventure of Link again.
Which one? The original or the remake?
Game. And that's partially because DJC had hit me up going, he wants to do like a co-op video thing and he wants to play that game for the first time. And not knowing how that's going to go, I'm like, I need to get exposure to this game again because it's been a very long time since I played it. So,
wait, I didn't hear which Zelda?
Adventure of Link.
Oh, Adventure.
So the second one for the NES, technically the third one in the series.
Yep.
Right. So I've kind of got that going on the side, along with still kind of messing around with Ninja Gaiden and Game Ground. I booted up the new Double Dragon, which is a lot of fun. That was really good. I highly recommend that if you like kind of retro-inspired games and you're a big fan of Double Dragon. I've only played the first stage, but it seems a lot more approachable than the original Double Dragon series, which is okay. Not everything needs to be like, crazy hard.
Did you ever play Neon?
Yeah, I beat Neon actually just about a year or so ago because when I first played it, there was a stage I could not get to grips with, and I finally managed to be able to push my way through that game. Such a good game when you can finally get through a lot more of that content.
How do you compare that with this new one?
I think this one's probably more approachable. I don't really know. There's skill ups you get, but I only did the first stage when you could buy them, but I don't know how they've affected the characters yet. So I'm uncertain how that's going to progress. Neon was really cool because you could level up the tapes and everything like that constantly. And there was a lot of really cool like mixing and matching of abilities to your play style that I thought was a lot of fun. And I thought the bosses were really creative. This feels more like a callback to the more original Double Dragon so far. Yeah. Only more approachable gameplay wise. Right. Yeah. And it has a very River City. Not River City Girls, but the original River City kind of feel to it as far as the graphics go, which is fun. I like that art style personally. It's not what I always attribute with Double Dragon, but it's fun, and I'm having fun with it so far. So I'm looking forward to getting deeper into that one. What's up, Born? Double Dragon. Yeah, Double Dragon has an amazing soundtrack, and Skullmageddon is probably one of my favorite bad guys since Handsome Jack. He's just so much fun. I love it when they do like a fun villain. Like you almost want to root for them because their lines are so good that you just enjoy having them on screen. They're not a nuisance. They're not making you angry. They're just fun to watch. Yeah. Right? I think you're right, Scepter. I think Neon did get a physical.
I can check.
It might have been a limited run physical, but I think it got a physical.
Yeah, limited run.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yep, yeah.
So what we have for you tonight, guys, is kind of a combined topic. We want to talk a little bit about VR and how some games, particularly like some of the retro games, might move in interesting and unique ways into, say, a VR space, and how some of the tools that we have that are built for VR could help us in more modern day games, or even bring back the feel of things like the arcade, right? So one example of bringing things kind of back by using VR technology in a way that doesn't necessarily have you using a VR headset is to say use some of your VR controls for things like light gun games and the like, right? So that might be part of the discussion. We're going to kind of see where the discussion is. And as you guys can see, Mike's pretty late. So we're probably just going to go ahead and kick this off with any ideas that we have.
I have one.
Go.
I can go? Okay. I thought a really fun game that would kind of combine a little bit of retro was I was thinking of a Sonic. I thank you very much.
You were thinking a Sonic game of VR?
A Sonic racing game. So it would be in the style of like, think of like you're the, it's you as Sonic racing, like multiplayer racing. So you'd be able to run, jump, going through like half pipes, all that stuff. And I imagine that the worlds would be everything from like the 16-bit like half pipe look to then it would evolve into, the Dreamcast version. Like it would go throughout the ages of the consoles. And I thought that by using your hands, which I'm sure will be taken out of context here.
Knowing my show, yes. And clipped.
Yeah. You're welcome, Internet. But anyway, that you could run like this, and then you could jump and do other stuff. But I thought that would be a really fun. So you get a little bit of energy, a little bit of a workout, and I just think Sonic lends itself to a racing game, whereas an adventure game it doesn't. Because I think with racing it's a little bit more on rails, and it's moved by your locomotion. So I kind of thought that was a perfect way of implementing the controls that we were talking about, and retro and VR all together. What do you think?
Honestly, I think that's a good idea. I have another one that's far different than what you might think of. That I thought was a cool idea. And Oak City Gamers, I'm totally game for. Actually, almost anybody can pop up into a panel. We just have to find a topic that you're passionate about talking about that we can talk about with you, or have enough time to do some research to talk about it with you. And I'm totally game for having guests on here. Probably no more than like one or two at a time. But yeah, absolutely. No problem at all. You just got to let me know what you want to talk about. Usually, if I have a guest on the panel, I normally let the guest pick the topic for that night. That's generally kind of my rule of thumb. Since you're the guest, we talk about what you want to talk about that night.
I can't tell if Matthews is kidding or not, but I agree with his potential joke in that Dear Esther would make a great VR game. I agree.
I don't think I know that game.
Dear Esther is an experimental walking simulator, if you will.
Okay.
Really gorgeous. You're on this island. Well, I don't want to give anything away, but you're alone on this island for reasons unknown to you. And you kind of walk this path, and this narration plays over it. And then, again, spoilers. I don't want to say anything. So, but it's a great experience. Yes, that's what I thought. But I actually would like it.
Okay. Go, Oak City Gamers. I'll go with yours before I go with mine, because I had one that I thought was kind of weird. That would probably work. That I think would actually be quite cool in execution.
Okay, shoot.
Mine is something like RC Pro-Am.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm not thinking of it from like in the first person perspective.
No, that you control the cars.
Yeah, but like you can either be controlling the car, and you could manipulate tracks and make tracks in 3-dimensional environments, and then load those up for people to race. You could have a table where you could put your car down and physically work on your car, right? You could have drawers and stuff like that you could go into, and you could look for different wheels. You could order new parts and have those come in and tweak things the way you want. Even have paints and stuff to where you could like repaint the car and everything like that. And then, literally put it on the track and control it that way. I thought that would be a cool new way to kind of see RC Pro-Am from a slightly different angle, right?
Yeah, it's like you have a radio control car, and and then you could pick the environments that you're, playing this at and whatever. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. And yeah, Oak City, to your point, like saying like adventure games and puzzle jumps and stuff like that, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking of Boss today, and that's what made me think of RC Pro-Am from that angle. So that's actually kind of what brought me to thinking about that. One that's already been done that people haven't mentioned that should probably be played if you're into VR is Punch Out. They have one called Knockout League.
Yep.
That's basically Punch Out in VR.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. I love that.
What you got, Base? See, Matthews actually kind of likes that idea for RC Pro. I think that's a cool idea that that I don't think I've seen a lot of anybody really think about exploring that way. Now, you've seen all the basics of that because you've seen a lot of D&D play sets and stuff like that built in VR where they can put things on tiles and set up rooms and stuff like that. Being able to do that with like RC cars and then race them is just makes like a natural extension.
There was a game,
Mirror's Edge in VR, that could be totally sick, and that could also be vomit inducing.
Yes.
Either way, I like it.
Oh yeah.
Trackmania had that kind of VR game, by the way, that RC Pro-Am style where you're seeing, I think it was there was that, and there was one other that kind of had I have it on the original PSVR, like on a demo disc where you could see the track from like off in the distance, but it was all 3-dimensional and whatnot. And those are
and see, board games I kind of like. I want to say Arcade 1-Up had one, and I think there was a Kickstarter for one. They had these augmented reality coffee table like things.
Yes.
And I think those are brilliant for something like that because it's almost like a holo table where everything kind of appears on the table and everybody can gather around the table and use their pieces. And whatnot. And I think those are almost better than VR for that kind of experience because then you can actually interact with each other normally.
Right.
And you still have the table, and then you can set it up for any table you want in a VR space.
You just look like two virgins playing at a table, though. I mean, you do guys look ridiculous just moving imaginary pieces with your goggles on and everything. But
right. But I mean, if everybody that's there is hanging out and playing it, then there's,
I tell you, that's where
Mike just popped in out of nowhere. Teleportation. It's voodoo. He's a witch. Burn anyway. I was watching Monty Python search for the Holy Grail.
Yes, what a great movie. Did the rabbit,
Mike?
So, luckily, there's nothing wrong with our fans.
Slightly hot.
Slightly, just like slightly hot.
Yeah.
Like icy hot, like if I was right up against it, yelling into it like a maniac.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oak City Gamers, you're welcome, man. We got to get like you on here. We need a Luke on here. I've got a guest lined up. I think probably for the next one already.
All right.
Somebody from the GOG that I wanted to get on there. I'm gonna find a topic that he wants to talk about.
What are we talking about?
It's Ham. Solo.
Oh, Ham. Oh,
yeah, because I mentioned it to Ham, and he said he's down, just not
fighting games.
Just not the next week.
Fighting games. Talk to him about fighting games.
I would love to talk fighting games, but my entire chat like walks away when I start talking fighting games. Like everybody's like, nope.
All right. How's my
Vinny
hot
would
mic
be a good
now?
one to have on for fighting games because he loves fighting games too. So Vinny would be a good person to have on for that as well.
Yep. How's my hot mic now?
It's still you're all right. You're good. I wouldn't go too crazy.
Well, I turned on the automatically adjust mic volume in StreamYard.
Luke said Reducer in VR. Thanks for popping in, by the way, Luke. Good to see you.
See, I would love. See, I know there's a lot of first-person shooters and stuff like that have gone to VR, but I would love to see something like Skyrim, Remnant. Like we're playing Remnant 2.
Skyrim's kind of already gone there. There's already a Skyrim.
Oh, there is a
VR
Skyrim VR, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a VR experience for it. I don't know how good it is.
I don't either. Well, the original
Matthew says Battle Chess, and before even way earlier, Castlevania and Metroid were mentioned by Zombie, I believe. And Metroid especially, I would love to see in VR.
Metroid.
That would be amazing in VR.
Metroid would.
And if you're going to do battle chess, I would do the Star Wars hologram chess. You know, the whatever.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, that'd be a blast.
The one by who made that? That was not Spectrum Holo. There might have been Spectrum.
Does he weigh more than a duck?
He turned me into a newt.
Vinny's here.
A newt.
I got better.
Yeah, we don't want to go down this road. This is This is a dangerous road to go down.
I could quote this all night.
That's the
Love that
dangerous road.
movie. Night, Luke. Thanks for popping in, man.
Hey, Luke.
Right?
So, a couple of other ones I was thinking of. The other main one that I thought of that I don't think anybody thought of is I think ActRaiser would be cool.
As
I
a,
would like.
are you first person or are you like watching?
I'm
as a
thinking it's kind of both because I'm thinking on the stages where you're in there, you could do the kind of like first person perspective, combat perspective, and then you go to this sort of God hand mode for the city portion of that, which is I think what makes it so compelling to me as an idea, right?
Right.
Because I feel like you could do a lot with that from both the kind of God level perspective and from the first person perspective, and it could be something really fun.
Nick, what do you think? Do you think
Hey,
that?
Carla.
How you doing, Carla? Do you think that VR could have saved Metroid Other M? Right.
I don't think so.
Well, like think about it, right? So I mean, and imagine if they just redid the entire story, but that you could play Metroid as though you could third person play it. It's 3D with Samus running around, and then when you'd go into the first person mode, that's when you'd be first person.
Yeah, I think in some aspects it definitely would have made it better, particularly the what felt very forced and tacked on investigation scenes that just felt bad in the game.
I was gonna say,
I think those would be improved significantly.
Remind me what was wrong with Metroid Other M again, because I'm not the Metroid.
Most people did not like it. I mean,
you've only played Other M, so you don't really know people's hatred for that game.
Gotcha.
And it had to do with the fact that everybody had built this mental image for the last 20 plus years. And Seventh Guess is a good pick. I think that would be a great game.
Well, it is. It's going in VR.
But people have built this mental image of Samus over the last 20 plus years.
I got you.
And then kind of had it subverted by having her so kind of meekly follow orders when she's never followed orders before, even though she's been part of command structures before. And so people really didn't like how she was portrayed in it and kind of how petulant she seemed because she was always very kind of like in charge doing her thing. But that's from like a further, because a lot of what I think really bugged people about it in the cutscenes is it's when she's a lot younger. So she's not experienced and matured like she is when you run into her in the later games. Like a lot of what they're showing you is before those time periods, right?
Gotcha.
Before she's had those experiences. So I feel like it kind of gets misinterpreted, but a lot of people just didn't care for the gameplay either. Which I thought the gameplay was fun. I thought the gameplay still kind of holds up. I would agree with people. The story can be a little, but I'm kind of taking it for what it is. They were trying to give a little bit more of a backstory.
And just in case anyone out there does not know Other M, you can check out Mr. Matthews' video on Other M. It's a great video, so you should check that out.
Yeah, and we had a discussion about that with him in the earlier days of.
We did because we were at one point doing games on here that we were trying to get some exposure in, and then coming back and talking about them and trying to make it a group thing, and that kind of fell by the wayside.
Yeah, Scepter, I did play it. We talked about it. I did play Other M. I got fairly far into it. You got to remember, I came from the camp that I was a Sega guy, so my experience with Metroid really isn't what everybody else's is who grew up with the original Metroids. Right. So I liked it for what it was. So I didn't, it's not that I respect people, that have gone through the lore much more than me. I just didn't really, it was a good game for me for what it was.
Yeah. And Carla brings another one that would be kind of fun, which would be Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
I would like something along the lines of, there are two games that I'm thinking of, and I think either of them would be great. One would be a game like Sylphid from the old Sega CD games. It's got that kind of kind of pseudo 3D. It had a lot of, it wasn't polygons. It was really sprites over full motion video, made it look like polygons and stuff. But that would be really great.
I can't remember where I saw it, but I swear, and it could be my imagination, but I remember seeing something in VR where it kind of was a shooter, but you were kind of like holding the ship in your hand with the controller,
Oh, that would
and
be
then
neat.
pulling the trigger would fire. So as you just kind of moved the ship right through this space and fired, so it's almost like you're holding like a gun, but the image of it is a ship, and you still have to dodge all the obstacles with the ship in that space. And that could be kind of a cool solution for what you're talking about, because it would be kind of a neat perspective.
The other one would be Panzer Dragoon.
Oh yeah,
I could see Panzer Dragoon. Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be awesome.
You can look
and somebody was mentioning like a VR MMO, which is very Ready Player One, but I'm totally down for it.
Elder Scrolls Online or an EverQuest.
Another thing that I think has kind of been there, but I think maybe it's been done this way, maybe it hasn't. I would like to see virtual arcades.
Yes.
Where like you can literally walk around and look at the arcades and interact with other players in the space and maybe even challenge them to games, and it puts you like right at the cabinet, right? And so you can get some of those ambient sounds of the other arcade machines and stuff like that. And it'd be a way to kind of experience something that's doesn't really exist anymore and kind of preserve that a little bit. I think that would be a cool idea.
I agree with that. That'd be neat.
I don't know. I think they've tried to do some collections and stuff like that in there where you can put carts into the consoles and stuff, but I don't know if anybody's done like a fully immersive arcade.
Not the way they've done elements of it, but not the way you're talking is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that would be like a cool draw, particularly if you could do it online. I think that would be neat to have other people in.
All of your ideas, Nick, are basically it's getting rid of the first person likeness, like the idea of a first person shooter idea. It's more that you get to be around an environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I feel like they've already do the first person thing is something that's just obvious. Right.
Right.
And already it's already there. It already works. It's like saying, well, let's put a rhythm game into VR. We already know that works. Right. And none of these things are really pulling people more into VR. I feel like you need some different experiences, right? Like the RC Pro-Am thing could be expanded to model trains, right?
A
You
train
could set
simulator.
up tracks. You could have the controls where you could do in there. Hell, you could take that railroad controller thing that I had in there and have that work, right? Where that's kind of modeled in place, and as you're reaching down, you're grabbing onto that, right? And the VR has like your view into the world as you're messing around with that and hitting the buttons. That's another. It gives you something tangible to play with, right? By using the controller that's modeled in the game, so long as you're positioned properly, right? And then you're seeing everything through the lens of VR that way while you're messing around with the train. You know, so stuff like that would be really cool ideas if you could work that out. And that's a much more difficult idea to implement than the other ones I've mentioned. You could just simply have like train controls in front of you, and you could have your hand kind of grip it, you know, and just.
But I think with the train one too, it'd be fun that you could build the environments and all that stuff, and then at any time you could actually ride on the train.
I shrunk myself down. I did. I have Honey Shrunk the Kids myself on a Super Nintendo. Street Fighter has all that if you have a headset. I do have a headset. I just don't know if I want to do. I don't know if I want to do a fighter in VR. If I was going to do something like that, there's already been some first-person fighting games in the past that were on stuff like Sega CD and 3DO that I feel like you could bring back in some way. But it would be so basic and rudimentary. I don't know how you would really execute it.
Every time someone would do like a backflip, people would be vomiting left and right. So everyone would never jump in street, if it's a street.
Right. Inner Space VR.
That's awesome. That's a great idea.
That would be fun. Roller Coaster Tycoon's another one. Yeah.
Yep.
I think that kind of.
I think there is a roller. Well, there is a roller coaster.
Tycoon, there's one like
it's called because I have it on the Meta Quest.
After I always wanted to be Quaid.
Hang on, I'll tell you what that
Carlin wants to see Raiders Republic. I'm not familiar with Raiders Republic.
is.
What
Is it
is that?
Raiders or Riders? Riders Republic. It's a
Riders
it's like
Republic,
a
okay.
snowboarding. It's by Ubisoft. It's one of these. It actually isn't too bad. It's a MMO meets snowboarding, hang gliding kind of thing.
Okay.
It's kind of neat.
I could totally see that. I think doesn't Microsoft Flight Simulator already have a VR mode?
It does. I was gonna say Flight Simulator, but that already has one, and I've got a pretty. I think that's cool.
I can tell Panda doesn't play fighting games. We don't jump.
Yeah.
We jump occasionally. I jump a little bit. I try not to jump too much. I grew up jumping all the time, man. Like, it's hard to break that habit. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh yeah, all I do is jump. I'm Chun-Li and I just jump around all the time.
Get to the chopper. Actually, a Predator game would be awesome.
Yeah,
That'd be great. Even it just straight like first person playing as a Predator and being able to like climb through different trees and use different visor modes and pull all the different armaments while you hunted other people. Like if we're gonna do an asymmetrical game like that, because they've already done like Predator hunting grounds, right? I think that would be fun to do in a VR perspective. I could see that working.
I'm trying to think where's my list of
Oak City Getters wants classic Paperboy in VR. I can see that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised nobody's not tried to do a paper delivery game. That seems like a no-brainer
Well,
to
I
do.
just imagine that kids have no idea what a paper is.
I imagine so. But I mean, they moved Duck Hunt into VR. I mean, they made it kind of a horror game, but I was okay with that.
It sucks that Microsoft has zero interest in VR, because I would love to see them bring Sea of Thieves to VR.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, another one that I would be nervous about playing in VR, but would be glorious to see anyway. Jet Set Radio.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I just have a feeling by the time I'm like spinning around on some of these rails, I'm just to be very.
You're puking. You are puking your guts out.
Pretty much.
Yeah. But you know what? I could think of a number of. See, if you start opening up games like that, Crazy Taxi, Outrun, Space Harrier,
Sewer Shark.
Oh, Sewer Shark. Oh God, yes. I'd take a Sewer Shark.
Yeah, I was thinking Sewer Shark before.
Sewer Shark would be.
I love the idea of.
I think Bourne mentioned Night Trap earlier.
Well, not just Night Trap, but another. This is a game nobody talks about, and now that I think of it, you could do a game like Ground Zero Texas, which is also in the vein of Sewer Shark, but it was kind of a gun. It was a gun game where you couldn't use a gun. You just basically had to use your controller, and you could use controllers to be the guns for a game like that. Yeah, and what was the other one? Zombie Killer Corpse Killer was the other one that I've got that on the Saturn. Those would be great games to have in VR.
Sector is asking, when do you think VR is going to become mainstream, because people don't really seem to care, and I think
never.
I don't know that it's ever going to until the headsets get a little bit lighter and they get more affordable.
I have a theory, and I really stick to it, that most people don't wear glasses, and those people typically hate wearing anything. People who've worn glasses their whole lives are used to putting stuff on their face. And most people don't like 3D movies. Most people don't like VR. I don't think they like putting crap on their head.
See, I've used sunglasses my whole life, and I don't wear regular glasses, but I've always used sunglasses. And so VR headset doesn't bother me. The only thing about a VR headset that bothers me is it's a very isolating experience, right? It's not a very socializing experience. It feels like from my past experiences. Now, a lot of my VR focus right now has been on stuff like FedXR, which is just like a fitness program I use. So I would use that 1 to 2 times a week. I might try to get in and do a little bit of VR normal gaming and stuff like that, like like a VR golf program or Half-Life Alyx, if I can ever get myself into that one. Occasionally Space Pirate Arena, or some Beat Saber, or Duck Season, stuff like that. I think one of the main barriers is it comes down to sort of the Wii thing where you're having to like move around and flail around a lot to do it. So you can't play it for as long. So it's kind of tiring. The headset's a little heavy and it's a little heavy front forward, and it feels a little isolating. Like you're kind of like more isolated on that than you are when you're playing a console or even on your computer. So there's a couple of factors there that cause a problem with it too. And the barrier for entry can be kind of steep. The Quest 2 is pretty affordable for what it is, but people look at that and think, well, this only has this, but I could do all of this if I just took that money and put it towards like an Xbox or a PlayStation. And those seem like better value for the money because then they can use them as like players and stream devices and stuff like that too. So it seems a little bit more cost effective. They're going to have to, but the big problem for me, I think, is they really do need to focus on more compelling apps. Half-Life Alyx was the most mainstream app that they got out on a headset to date that I know of. A lot of it is smaller titles. You got your Beat Sabers, you got your Moss, which was pretty popular. You got Knockout League,
Moss
which
was
most
good.
people don't know about. You got things like Duck Season, which is a neat game when you're exposed to it. But I found out about that from a YouTube video. There was like no marketing on that. I would have completely missed that had I been actively trying to look for it in the marketplace. And the marketplace is either full of like dating sims or hentai, or it's overflown with a bunch of frankly smut and rhythm games or fitness applications trying to sell you a membership. So it's hard to find a lot of real games a lot of times.
What are we what are we defining as a real game for that? Because I do understand that mindset, because but I also think we're coming a longer way.
I'm thinking like bigger, greater experiences, because most people aren't going to buy a VR headset just for Beat Saber, right?
Mm-hmm.
No. Now they might buy it for, say, Half-Life Alyx, because that's more of your AAA experience, right?
Right.
Now there's plenty of really cool VR experiences, but a lot of them, the bigger experiences that they mentioned, you smut VR. Now we're talking.
I just think it's a shame they haven't converted a lot of games that easily could have made it. Like Portal 1 and 2 absolutely should have already been VR. I don't know why they're not.
And they have done. I'll tell you who should get more credit on the original stuff that they've tried to do. And sit down for this, Panda. So you sitting down?
Okay, I'm ready.
Stand up and then sit down.
Okay.
Sony.
Okay. Oak City bought his Quest literally because of Beat Saber.
Some
people have bought it just for Beat Saber. And I'll admit that was a big draw for me when I bought it too. That's a fun game.
If you look at the games that Sony converted to VR on the first PSVR 2 PSVR headset, they're kind of they've gotten away from that with PSVR 2, unfortunately. But if you look at the first one, Wipeout
was the best game.
Unbelievable. I still will go and play that. The Omega and the Omega Collection on its own was a phenomenal game. Is phenomenal. And then Namco Ace Combat, which
is amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
There are those games, but then and Resident Evil. I've heard a lot about Resident Evil.
The Resident Evil games are incredible.
Resident Evil 7 apparently is very good. And Hitman 3, I think, had a VR mode, but it was a little janky.
It was a little janky.
The latest Squadrons game had it, but I didn't mess with it too much. My problem with some of those is when I play a VR game, I don't want to use my keyboard, and I don't really want to use
about Sony right now.
Right? I want to use the VR controls.
Yeah.
Those are more intuitive for me. Because trying to use my keyboard, like I tried Subnautica in VR, and it looks great. But I kept struggling to find keys on my keyboard.
No, see,
I side glance at my keyboard a lot when I'm playing because I feel lost when I'm completely blocked from it in VR.
We're talking about Sony, so there's no keyboard. It's just your controller.
Right. I'm talking about in general experiences that don't necessarily use the VR controllers. Right. And how that
So, like,
kind of makes
even-
it weird for me when I'm playing it. Like even Tetris Effect, which is on the PlayStation, would use the PlayStation controller and the VR headset as part of the experience. But even I
Correct.
find that weird. I don't
And
really. It
one
don't feel as
meta-
immersed.
the-
It feels weird.
And on the Quest 2, I'm just basically using my hand controllers as a controller. But I want to go back to, because one of the games, the first games. One of the first games
It's
I
like the Wii controllers
specifically-
all over again. We're just breaking stuff with controllers now.
One of the first games I bought that was specific for the VR was Iron Man. And I have the move controllers. And I'll tell you, there was nothing like it. You could do it sitting down. You didn't have to stand up to play it. But there really was no experience like you have the move controllers and you want to fly, and you are flying like Iron Man flies in the movies. You put your arms down, you can do, you do
Currently on the Quest 2 now.
Yes. And when you want to shoot, you do the thing. There are those experiences that don't ride it. Now, another one that I really enjoyed was Until Dawn, the roller coaster shooter game.
Yeah.
Those are the games that I think, unfortunately, I have not seen that in PSVR 2. Battlezone on PSVR was phenomenal. Reminded me of Tron.
Yeah.
And what I expected to see when I watched Tron in 1982.
The PSVR was amazing. The first one was amazing.
Yeah. They've gotten
I keep
away.
waiting for them to build on the second one, but when they said like none of the games were going to move forward, and it's like another $500-$600 headset on top of a console that you already struggle to find in the store.
Most of them are upgrades, by the way. Just at the heads up.
And they're already talking about a PS5 Pro.
Yeah,
I'm not. You've got to be kidding me right now.
Just like I'm not getting a MetaQuest Pro. When my son.
The only reason I'd want one of those because that thing looks so light.
It does.
It looks, and I want the controllers because I don't like the tracking on the Quest 2 controllers as well. And there's like actual cameras on the new controllers, and they work with the regular Quest 2.
I think that those controllers are also coming into 3. The Quest 3 is going to.
They might be, but you could buy the controllers independently, and so I'm tempted to have a pair of them just because they look good.
Well, between that and the performance upgrade that's coming to the 2.
Yeah, Wii and VR are kind of parallels in some respect, absolutely, because some of the Wii controls translate into VR, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely do. The PSVR 2.
And Oak City, I got to get your contact information. I don't know how to reach out to you outside of like just YouTube. Like, I don't think I have any contact information for you. We need to find a way to hook up at some point. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
No, it's okay. The PSVR 2 was really underwhelming, and it's a shame because I do like the MetaQuest 2. I'm trying to once again kind of take my sons and shove it off to the side so he forgets to take it to college next week.
But because I mentioned FitXR to you, and right as you were about to get into it, like your son discovered his headset again.
He discovered that I had borrowed it
right there.
Yes, he discovered that I had borrowed it. So I'm going to take a shot at hoping, because I have to take him to college next week. So we're just going to kind of forget that to put it in the van.
Oh, see, I use an Apple too, and I have no interest in that headset. And the reason I don't have any interest in the headset is it's trying to make your MacBook. It's just doing your MacBook in VR. That's not the way I want to interact with my MacBook, right? If you want to give me an actual VR gaming headset, that's cool. I'm not going to pay you $3,000 for it. That's out of the price range of what even I'm willing to spend in VR, and I would argue I'm a little more interested in VR than probably the regular than a lot of people are, right? Which is minor compared to some of the people I know who are fanatical about it. They literally can't play what they call flat games anymore, which sounds insulting even saying it like that. To me, it sounds like, peasants, get away from me with you and your flat games.
Flat
whatever. It's like when I talk to people that talk about their consoles and people playing on their tiny monitors in front of their computer, and I'm like, oh God, please just blow it out your rear. I can't even with you right now. If I wanted to throw this thing on a 40 or 45 inch, I could. I don't want to.
I like my games like I like my women, flat.
That's right.
And 80 inches. That's the screen that I'm playing
Wife's
on.
in the other room laughing. I think she's listening to us.
Oh my Lord.
See, I've got a MacBook Pro that I bought because my cat kept killing laptops by stepping on them, and I'm like, that's it. I'm just gonna drop the money. And it was a good investment because they're like aluminum chassis. So I'm like, break this. You're not quite heavy enough to break this one. So that one survived.
Yeah, a lot of gamers don't understand.
VR is kind of one of those things until you've had like a cool VR experience that really kind of pulls you into it. You don't really start looking into it. And honestly, I don't spend enough time digging into the Quest or the Steam library because I'll use virtual desktop from my Quest headset to connect to my PC. So I can buy a lot of my games from Steam because I like having my games on Steam. And if I want to go to and buy an Index, which has a much better controller setup as far as like individual finger controls and stuff, then I have that option there. Whereas I don't if I just buy it on the Quest, and I'm just locked into Facebook's ecosystem. And if they decide for whatever reason I did something wrong and ban my Facebook account, I lose access to everything. And I don't really like that. So I try to buy most of my stuff off of their platform deliberately.
Can you?
Yeah. Yeah. You download virtual desktop and you install it on your computer as well as the client, and then you just Wi-Fi over to your desktop. I do it all the time. Played Retro Gaming Challenge on the DS. I have not played Retro Gaming Challenge on the DS.
I don't know what that game is, but I wouldn't be surprised if I know there's a VR game. Maybe Matthews can tell me if I'm right here.
I'm looking it up now.
There's a VR game where you play like a Game Boy in your hand and you're playing like a retro game. But the idea is that there's a teacher who keeps walking by and you have to keep hiding the Game Boy every time she like moves away from the chalkboard to look at you, and so you put it down. There's 2 of those games in VR. So you're playing a retro game in a virtual environment, and the other game is to make sure that the teacher doesn't see you playing them.
Honestly, what I'm looking at from what he's saying, it's got 2 kids sitting in front of a TV set, and they put like a cart in, and the top screen has the game, and the bottom part just shows them. I feel like something like this has been done with some of like the game collections where you're sitting in a room with a CRT TV, and there's like a shelf that has the carts, and you can pick up the cart and you can put it in the console. Is that kind of what you're talking about, Matthews? Because I feel like that actually has been executed pretty reasonably well, actually.
Well, I have a feeling that the bottom screen in that game is also a game, like where the kids.
It might be. Let me see if I can throw.
That's why I mentioned that VR game that does exist.
And I want to make sure that I'm talking about the right thing.
Yeah, Matthews is saying I have the idea because that's it. There's 2 of those games. I know for a fact on PlayStation. I'm very confident they're also on the Quest and stuff.
Here it is. Okay. Yeah, I think this is the one that he's talking about. Am I looking at the right thing, Matthews?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and VR, you'd be the 80 kids better in playing an 80s system. Yeah.
There is.
I feel like something like this has actually been done.
Well, there
to
is
an extent.
Even the Genesis collection, to a very minor extent, does this. You're in you know which Genesis collection I'm talking about?
Yeah. I've seen a couple of plays online, and then it just takes you to the main screen of the game. Like you can't look around the rest of the environment once you're in the
VR.
game.
You can. You're in that 80s room,
right?
Yeah, that exists. I mean, that it's a simpler version of it, but it didn't. It doesn't go into all the cool things.
No, I mean, I seeing something more like this would be great. It goes along the same veins as the arcade experience, It's just more of a home console experience of the same thing. I'm totally down for that. That would be great.
Hey, Mike, you didn't hear I was curious. What do you think of I like the idea of a Sonic racer. So you play as like Sonic and
Oh,
it's multiplayer.
yeah.
And like each stage would be like going from the original like 16-bit game where it's the half pipe, it looks 16-bit, but then you can go through like Dreamcast, all the different levels that get better graphics and stuff. And you would be locomotion with your hands and there'd be jumps, half pipes, all that stuff.
That would be sweet, and they could actually improve on. There are actually a couple of games out there. There was Sonic R, of course, for the Saturn, which would be nice, but there was also Sonic Riders, which was a Kinect game. So you could put those in that mix too.
Yeah, combine the ideas. Yeah,
And we get an updated Power Glove. I feel like that would be kind of a really cool idea. Like a Power Glove idea with VR the way it is now would be kind of sick. Hey, Crypto Guy. Pitch that idea to Sega. Yeah.
I want to pitch it, and then I want all the money.
I feel like if Sega could actually get the Sonic team to like work on it, I feel like it'd be a great idea.
Well,
you heard it, Sega. All the royalties go to me. Thank you.
Sonic CD
it's
VR.
So badly designed. It needs a remake.
I love Mazin.
The thing is the original glove it was designed on was actually used on shuttles. So the original idea was great, but by the time they pared it down enough to make it commercially viable, it was junk. Yeah, everybody seems down with the Sonic CD VR.
I would be.
We need a VR experience, but the Power Glove actually works.
I'll tell you, if we're talking about Sega games beyond the ones that I talked about earlier, let's get Nights into Dreams in VR.
Oh, absolutely!
Jesus,
you know what I want to see? I want to see Tron. I want to see Tron tanks.
Well, that's
floating tanks where I can literally like do this and drive it and shoot. That'd be great.
That is Battlezone.
Yeah, fine. Give me that.
That's out.
You can get copyright infringement. It's basically what Battlezone is.
Yeah,
and honestly, if you really want to puke, the light cycles.
Like, I would love that.
I think I would puke so much trying to play that, but it would be great to try.
Take them into the maze. Oh yeah.
Knights would some other people have seconded on Knights. Knights would be amazing.
Would be awesome.
That'd be a great VR experience.
Mike, would you go first person or behind the shoulder in a sense, or like behind, like a third person view behind the character?
So I would go third person behind the character and use it more like. But I would also, I think some of the allure. See, it doesn't have to be, to me, stuff coming at you. You can do that Knights arena where it's just a very 3D look, but it's still side-scrolling. It's still that side-scrolling kind of pseudo 2.5D, but you're really
so you're
immersed.
seeing it as a 2D game in a 3D environment. You're not necessarily behind.
Not necessarily, right. That would be a neat way to play Knights, but I could see it as a 3D play field.
Okay.
But with you inside of that.
Yeah, I think it'd be because Population 1 does something where you can climb up things and then you can let go and you can put your arms out to glide and stuff. So being able to fly kind of like this in VR with Knights, I think would be great. Use the buttons for certain tricks and stuff. And Crypto, I actually did a video on the Sega Mega Drive Sega 3D headset on the channel.
Yep.
So I've actually talked about that on this channel before. It's in my oddity section. Matter of fact, there's been a couple mentions of things that we're trying to do. Either just get rid of the controller entirely and either use like mind power, the Atari Mind Link, or U-Force, or VR headsets, Power Glove, etc. A lot of that stuff. And I keep finding more of it. So I keep digging. Even the Famicom had a VR headset. It never made it to the States, to the NES, but they have one for the actual Famicom.
Yep.
Apparently, Knight's got seizures. You want a Sonic game that comes with actual Sonic seizures, and you have to run around the house until you have a heart attack, and then it calls an ambulance for you. You win if it gets there in time.
I think that's a great idea.
I feel like
That
this
is
is
a
a good
great
waitlist plan.
How you doing, Cyrus?
A
by the
Knight's
way?
reboot would be as good as that Wii game is. Yeah, they tried it on the Wii, and honestly, I thought the controls would probably lean itself towards it on the Wii, but I don't know if I ever actually picked it up to give it a shot. There are a lot of games I just missed or I bought and I didn't spend enough time with on the Wii, because the Wii actually had, I felt like, more solid library than anybody gave it credit for, and had a lot more to offer than anybody gave it credit for.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing for the Wii U. They were both interesting control concepts.
Yes. I could see Pilot Wings and Wave Race. I could also see Mario 64. I mean, all those 64 games would be
I
great.
think Wave Race is actually a great fit.
Yeah.
Personally, just a jet skiing game.
You know, why not Superman 60?
You know,
why not?
As far as Mario 64 is concerned, because Mike, I imagine it would not be first person; it would be kind of a third person, correct? In your head?
Yeah.
So, like, if you ever played Lucky's Super Lucky Tale, like they had that in 3D, and that game is great. As was Astrobot. That's probably the best VR game.
Astrobot. I loved Astrobot.
Yep.
I loved Astrobot. And
Zombie mentions Afterburner and Space Harrier. I think both of those.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yep. I mentioned Space Harrier earlier. Afterburner, Outrun, Power Drift, all of those.
Star Fox is another one that could be kind of cool.
All of those super scalar games.
Here's another weird one if we're talking about like first person and kind of like racing and flying. Hydro Thunder.
Sure.
Shit. Yes.
Language, Mike. Language.
Because that's a franchise that's been dead since Midway.
Yep.
That could use some revitalization.
Well, it came out on the Dreamcast and Xbox because Microsoft owns it.
You know what? They have done some simulations of people trying to be streamers and grow as a streamer. And I feel like doing that in VR would kind of be neat. But be kind of like, why aren't you just kind of doing it? But another one that I don't think anybody's mentioned, I'm surprised my wife hasn't poked her head up and mentioned, Power Wash Simulator.
I'm surprised that doesn't have
I'm shocked it already doesn't have a VR mode, because it just makes sense to have that be in VR. It just makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's for a second play this the other way. What would be the worst game to port to VR?
The worst game to port to VR.
The worst game.
Superman 64. No, they might actually make it fun.
E.T.
Yeah.
Now, I'm trying to think of something that would just be like physically painful to play in VR. And initially, I would have said Doom, but they managed to work that in.
Doom for the PSVR and I'm sure other platforms. That game was awesome, especially with the PSVR big gun controller.
Yeah.
So good. So good.
Now, Para mentions Gauntlet. And Gauntlet could be fun.
I think Gauntlet from a third person, looking down, like it's like a tabletop kind of Dungeons and Dragons game would be awesome.
I could see I could see it from more of a first person perspective too. Because particularly like if you're the ranger or something like that, because they've had plenty of games where you can use like a bow and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they could be kind of fun in that too. Barbie on the NES. Why not? I don't know.
Daytona.
Power Rush may have to be the real Power Rush. We have the real experience, but we're lazy. You know what? I've seen a lot of people, including my wife, love Power Wash Simulator. Like it, and I made the stereotypical joke of we have a power washer, and then she gave me a nasty look, and I shut up.
Someone sleeping.
It was kind of earned. I'm not gonna lie, it was sort of earned.
Somebody sleeping on the couch.
Can only be never-ending mazes where you get easily lost and consistently overwhelmed by hundreds of creatures. And honestly, I saw another one that was actually. I saw a guy. There's was it channel by the name of Code Bullet, and he will go through and try to make AI to do these game experiences for him. He does a lot of like AI theory. And one of the things he tried to do is he was trying to code Pac-Man into VR. And I'm like, you know what? I could kind of get down with that. That's kind of a cool idea.
And it's a great idea, especially if someone else, like you're playing a multiplayer game where the other person can see top down and they can put the ghosts, like they can control the ghosts on the screen. Yeah. Pac-Man is first person.
Yeah. Or even just other people playing ghosts and running around the same maze trying to catch you could be quite cool as well. I feel like a lot of these asymmetrical games would kind of lean themselves to kind of like a first-person environment, right? Because we've had a number of these, and they're great concepts, right? Because you got your like slasher villain, like there's a Leatherface one coming out. There's been a Predator one. There's been one with Ash versus the Evil Dead, where someone's playing the spirit. And they have to like kind of make everybody kind of paranoid by using all these things in clever ways. Some of them have been super cool ideas that I feel like they fall by the wayside just because of the nature of the type of game they are, since they have no single player component. You can't play them offline or anything like that. They start to kind of all fall by the wayside. But if you could bring some sort of story or something like that. By the way, who is eating Command V? Hi, by the way. But I feel like you're kind of being a little disruptive to the chat. Like,
yeah, let's first off,
let's chill, please.
Yeah, it feels like someone is making a run at Paste.
Yeah, it feels like it. And Pace is a good standing member of the channel.
Yeah, so let's back that off. Oh, I'm not a mod here, so back that off, or someone will have to
mod
take
here. Hold on.
I'm not a mod either.
Hang on. I got it. Give me a minute. I'm trying to fix stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Everybody just being all me.
Well, wow, I even just got the live chat. Welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a few mods because I haven't made a lot of mods here because I just haven't needed mods. On this particular channel, so I'm gonna wrench a few people.
Yeah. So,
hey, Mike, did you ever have this controller?
I did not.
Oh, it's so good. So good.
I have seen that. No.
So if I give you a wrench, do what you want. It means I trust you in your judgment.
I would give it to Pace and let Pace be the judge of.
Who do you think I'm doing that to right now?
Yeah, there you go.
I'm scrolling up looking for people. That's why the stream's gotten a little derailed. So if you guys want to carry on the conversation while I do this.
It's an older. It's an older code, but it checks out.
There we go.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's.
All right. So we got a few mods, and I'm kind of keeping an eye on it right now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pop out the chat so I can add more as I need to. But yeah, I'm not gonna have trolls on this channel.
No,
I'm sorry.
I can't.
I don't need subscribers bad enough that I want trolls on this channel.
And yes,
if you're going to be cool and you're going to hang out and you're going to be part of the conversation and we're just gently ribbing each other or just having fun and everybody's in on it, that's cool. If you're going to be a jerk, go home. Or better yet, just don't be a jerk and enjoy the conversation.
Yes.
That's all we're asking.
That doesn't seem that hard.
Yeah, I feel like we normally have a very amazing chat. And it's usually all very civil. I feel like they kind of went away the moment I started making mods.
Yeah.
That or somebody just handled it, which is fine. Either way.
No, he's still there. So bottom line, back off or we will back you off.
Yeah. Yeah. I hadn't, until this point, I had not needed mods. So I mean, I stream once every other week. Mods had not really been a priority.
I mean, it's an
Hi, by the
account.
way, Waves. Waves, good to see you, man.
Waves. Hey, Waves. So,
By the power of Red Skull, I have the power! Does anybody want like a He-Man game in general? Like either a beat 'em up or in VR or both?
Have you played
Now?
that indie He-Man game? Not to go off
No,
topic.
there's an indie He-Man game?
Oh, I will. It will blow your
Please,
mind.
please send it
dude.
to me. I kind of
Yeah.
want it now.
I was about to play it on my live stream. I will show it to you. You are going to lose your mind, dude. It looks exactly like the cartoon.
He-Maz. I have the elotes. Oh god, that's great. All right, so back on topic. We've actually been at this for an hour, which is honestly, let's move this topic a little bit because I'm going to talk about using these VR controllers in different ways, being able to incorporate them into either your PC or to other devices to use some of these more advanced tracking methods to be able to do things that we haven't been able to do for a while very effectively outside maybe the Wii, which is stuff like light gun games and other control schemes like that. They could use something different. Now, I know they've made light guns that supposedly work on standard LCD TVs, but the old technology basically stopped working outside of CRT TVs because of the refresh rate and the way they kind of operate based off the light fluctuation that they need in order to be able to capture the data that they need. But I feel like you could take something like, say, a Quest controller or something like that and use that. Even the Move controllers should still be able to work for this kind of thing, which makes me wonder why we've not had more of these kinds of experiences come up since we have so many workarounds for this technology now. The Wii was pretty good about it, but outside the Wii, they haven't made a new version of or an equivalent of a light gun for modern systems.
Or without VR, you're saying?
Right, outside of VR.
Okay.
Yeah. Because PlayStation Move was the last one that did it for that generation. That was right around the same time as the Wii.
And that Wii
past that, it feels like they've mostly dropped it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and some of the other games that I was gonna mention that I would love to see come to VR would be like Virtual Cop, Time Crisis, and you know.
I think it's a natural vibe for light gun games now to bring those in.
Right.
You could easily bring those experiences in, I feel like. Light guns don't.
Yeah, not natively.
Didn't work because they don't get along.
Yeah, not natively, but you know, part of the reason the Wii and that gun controller that Panda Sub showed worked so well is because there was, you know, with the Wii there was the bar, the sensor bar.
Yeah,
that picked that up.
It's got the
and
IR bar that can like read all the movements.
And the PSVR had the camera to pick up those movements. So those are how you got the light guns to work. I know that there are people working on technology for it, but I think it's going to require a sensor bar of some sort, which would be fine. I'm not against that at all.
I don't think so. And here's why. Look at the Quest 2. Look at the new controllers for things like the Quest. They have cameras built on them already.
Okay.
In the PS5,
why can't you read that data and send that like you could any other input to the console?
Well, and the PS5 controller does it without anything.
Well, and that's a good point. How do the gun games in the arcades work? Like the Tomb Raider arcade game. It very much looks like a home console game just with gun. You know, how does that work? It's definitely a some sort of projection TV.
Why am I not seeing Oak City Gamer's last message? I don't really put it up in the main chat because I don't want to post his.
Yeah,
I
to
already
Mike,
did it for a brief second, but I'm trying not to.
I just figured it was still that old technology, but if it's not, then it's obvious. I wouldn't be surprised then if there may be like a camera that's above the arcade screen or something. I don't know.
I'm looking at the
Because I feel
Tomb
like a
Raider.
PlayStation 5 type controller is not reliable enough for an arcade experience. So I don't know
I
if it's
thought
necessarily
most
just
of the
that.
arcade ones kind of had like a light source or light reading source between it and
That's
And
what I
I'm
would
not-
think.
the TV, and it could like basically read where the light focal point was, and that's where your reticle was.
Mhm.
And I'm
That's
not.
I
what
thought
and
that's
I'm
how
not
that
sure.
worked.
I mean, the screen for Tomb Raider is definitely a projection screen. You could do a projection or an HD screen. I just don't know. I don't know how they're doing it. So I'm kind of trying to look at how they're getting that and where that sensor might be. But I don't know. And I don't know how those work.
Yeah,
I'd
some of
love to
those,
know.
the way some of the really old ones worked is the gun itself had kind of like a light beam that was always kind of there,
Right.
aiming at the screen, and then behind the screen there was something that was like reading the light beam to register where it was. Right. I haven't looked at how more modern ones worked in the arcade. I keep thinking I want to do like a light gun video at some point, just kind of going over like the evolution of the light gun itself, like the full scope of it. And I'll probably learn it then, but I haven't done enough digging to really be educated on it. I mean, I know how they worked with the CRT roughly,
I'm
just
kind
because
of
of how how the CRT itself kind of worked and did its scan lines and how quick it was to refresh and how it would kind of do a burst of light in that one section to darken everything else out to read the input to see if you're where the location is of the object was. So I understand it from that perspective in a rough sense. But how it worked in the arcade, because how things worked in the arcade are usually significantly more advanced than the way they get it working in a home system. But I'm not sure
Yes.
how they actually did it.
I'm surprised that some third party Nintendo thing hasn't done like a Switch kind of equivalent controller for light gun games, just like the Wii
I
did
don't know.
with Zapper, because
And
that would work.
and
It would totally work.
Well, I feel like the Joy Cons can already kind of do that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't know why they're not doing it more.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's
See, I would love
basically
to.
the exact same Wii Zapper thing. You just put the Joy Cons on there. Boom, done.
Yeah, well, I feel like they've tried that. There was a game that came out that tried to do that. There was some sort of like it came with this cheap plastic housing and apparently worked very badly.
Okay.
But I think it was more to do with the implementation of the game itself rather than the technology, if that makes sense.
All right, so this is what I want
Switch
to
did
know.
House of the Dead, but does it work with the Joy Cons? Is my question. You have to keep centering the Joy Cons.
Oh, okay, that sucks.
Yeah, I want to know how Big Buck Hunter 1-Up Arcade works, because that supposedly is using the
more
the
arcade
Sindel
technology.
It was using the Sindel technology that never kind of made it to mass market.
Oh, that one. Well, no, that made it to mass market.
Did it? Because I can't find it anywhere. Because that
I
gun
just saw that
has...
screenshot you sent in private chat, by the way, Panda. That is glorious.
Isn't that cool?
That's amazing.
Yeah, and you can even put Thundercats in there too.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at this because the way that those work, those did have, from what I understood, those guns had a camera in them, and it picked up, and that might be what Tomb Raider's guns have, and those newer arcade games like Tomb Raider and Halo and all those, they might have a small camera.
Yeah, this is the one you're talking about.
Yes, and it's supposed to have a camera inside of it that focuses in on a part of the screen.
Yeah, they absolutely sell these.
See, I couldn't find. Let me.
They even have the foot pedal.
Hold on, Sinden light gun.
What is this technology? Like, how does this work?
I haven't dug into it too much, but I think he's right. I think it's supposed to use like a camera
Oh,
and
okay.
be able to like read the position of where the gun is pointed and send that through
Okay.
the controller to the console.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of a workaround for the way the light guns used to work. And I've seen a couple people review it. Some say it works great, and some say it doesn't work as amazing. But I kind of wanted to build a cabinet based around this because they've even
Okay, I
got
see it.
holsters and stuff for these things, which just sounds amazing to me. Like building like a Pike focused cabinet and putting a bunch of light gun games on it with these on it just sounds phenomenal to me.
So
See, Oak City Gamer saying he's got like every home variant of light gun.
All right, so
Scepter's got two of the Sinden light guns. He says they work pretty well, but it's a lot of setup.
Yeah, so the gun the gun works on
cameras in the gun and a white box around the content on your TV.
Yeah. Which and it only so far, according to the website, it works on Windows, Linux, Raspberry Pi, a physical modded PS1 or PS2.
Oh, this is a home use. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, this I think was originally like a Kickstarter style project that they launched this site off of, and they've just been selling them.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
So it's got the main controls to be able to navigate and be able to get into stuff from a more rudimentary perspective. But yeah, they're just like USB light guns.
Yeah. No,
but Scepter's got a couple. He says they work pretty well, but they take some setup and then there's like some white box around the content.
Yeah.
And Oak City, I've got your email.
Here
I'm
we go.
definitely gonna hit you up and get connected with you because one, I'd like to have you on the show,
right.
and two, we'll work on the collab thing. I got to get the one I'm doing now edited because I'm working on a game mechanics right now, and then I'm more than happy to work on a light gun one as a long-term video. It may take a while to get completely out because I struggle for time lately to be able to carve out for like bigger videos. I think I'm like 3 minutes into like a 16-minute video right now, and I can't find time. And I keep needing to rewrite.
Here's the scoop on this.
Later, Cy. Enjoy the Flash movie.
Bye, Cy. All right, so it says the Sinden light gun communicates by controlling your mouse cursor, which ensures compatibility with nearly all Windows and Linux applications that can use a mouse. So games like Duck Hunt, Time Crisis, Virtua Cop, House of the Dead, Point Blank, Terminator 2 Arcade, Star Wars Trilogy, Mad Dog McCree. So it calculates where you are pointing on the screen over 50 times a second and provides a complete end-to-end calculation in less than 20 milliseconds.
And then move the mouse there, basically?
Yep. Okay. As it remains completely accurate no matter how long you play or if you move positions, you could turn off your crosshairs and enjoy a completely authentic light gun experience. The software adds a thin border around your television display. The hardware is an optical-based system which uses this border to visually calculate the aiming position. So basically, it takes the border, it takes the camera, and it figures out where you are versus where it is versus the border, and moves your reticle that way. So it's great. It's great sounding technology. It's like a mouse pointer.
You know, I almost kind of wondered because I was thinking.
And I now have to go to work.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
so
no.
I'm going to go mute real quick while you guys talk.
Okay. Mike, I was wondering because I was thinking that technology would be great for people who are handicapped, who may not have working hands or anything. And I'm almost wondering maybe that I'm thinking about it the wrong way. Maybe the technology came from a handicapped kind of idea where you have glasses and then you're able to look at the screen and kind of move the mouse that way, maybe.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the video on this on their site, and he's using once he's got it calibrated, the guy, he's using the gun to literally move a cursor to launch Windows icons. Yep. So it's basically just an enhanced mouse, which is which if that works, that's why it doesn't work with consoles, except if you mod it, right.
Yeah.
So
I do have to go to work.
Okay.
An escalation just came in.
All right.
I need to jump on that, guys. So we need to call this here.
That's
I'm sorry
fine.
to cut this short as the conversation was getting
all good.
cool. I think we need to revisit light guns at some point and kind of
Yes.
talk more about this because I think this is a cool topic and variations and things that can be done. So that can kind of be its own thing. Maybe we'll bring Oak City in on that one because I feel like that's a good topic to have him on because he's got all sorts of light guns. So I think that's a really cool concept of one to bring in. So I'm going to call it here and quickly jump on this call. Thank you, everybody, for popping in. Sorry, it's a little bit of a short stream. I had a blast, guys. Hopefully, you guys
I've been there.
time, and we look forward to doing this again very soon. So, happy gaming, everybody.
Play on, gamers.
Bye bye.